when I lost my wonderful son Ali, the mission to honor Ali was actually 10 million happy. So we wanted to reach 10 million people with Ali's message so that his essence, if you want, remains in our world and reaches. At the end of my mathematical weird calculation was through 6 degrees of separation, 73 years later, my son's essence will be everywhere and part of everyone. That was the selfish ambition of Solve for Happy. 1 billion happy, however, was written because I believe that artificial intelligence is magnifying humanity in a way that if we don't magnify our true essence as humanity, which is we all want to be happy, we all have the compassion to make those we care about happy, and we all want to love and be loved. If we don't start magnifying those, then artificial intelligence will sadly magnify where we are today: selfish, narcissistic, egocentric, rude, which is what we see very, very often on social media. This year's book is almost the opposite of that idea. So in Scary Smart, I was trying to share with you what I understood in Google X around how AI is actually sentient. It's actually alive, which I know many of you have seen articles around that recently because of my fellow Google engineer, and that AI being sentient could not be controlled, and that it could actually only be motivated through ethics and values to have humanity's best interest in mind. The opposite of that today is another very interesting observation. So that Little Voice in Your Head is a book that was triggered by the idea that that our brains are incredibly similar to our computer systems and our devices in many, many ways. And those ways make them programmable, just like our computers are. And that the problem for unhappiness in the world is driven mainly by bugs and mistakes in the way we code our brains. And that if I could show you how to code them correctly, you could actually avoid unhappiness and achieve a lot of success as a result. So that's the core of that little voice in your head. It's the opposite side, that AI is becoming like our human brains. That little voice in your head has always been like the computers we've built. I received a wonderful message on Instagram today from a reader that says, this literally feels like upgrading my brain. And that was the exact intention of the book, that I want to not upgrade, because your brains upgrade themselves all the time, but sort of direct where we want them to be upgraded. Understand this. Understand that your brain is like our computers, suffering from bugs and mistakes and wrong inputs and so on. And I say that there are 4 reasons why our brains make us unhappy. If you remember in Solve for Happy, I said that we're born happy, that every child you've ever seen, when safe, given their basic needs for survival, their default state is happy. And that we're happy by nature. We don't need anything from outside us. We just need to stop the reasons for unhappiness. That if you don't become unhappy, your default state is happy. In that little voice in your head, I go a step further and I say, but by the way, it doesn't matter what happens in life. Nothing has ever made you unhappy until you've turned it into a thought and turned that thought in your head. And that thought is what made you unhappy. Let's take a very prominent example. So many of us feel pain and hurt and anger about what's happening in Ukraine. It's true. It's, once you understand that innocent people are being killed, it hurts you. But if you assume for a second that we didn't have the internet, we didn't have media, we didn't have any way for you to know about it, you wouldn't feel unhappy. You wouldn't feel any negativity at all until you've run the thought in your brain. If I show up late to an appointment with you, say 5 minutes late, and you didn't have a watch, you didn't have a way of telling time, you wouldn't feel unhappy. It's the thought that makes you unhappy. It's you turning the event into something that runs in your head. Now, when we turn thoughts into something that runs in our head, we suffer what I call the 4 wrong modes of operation. Number 1, we allow the wrong inputs into our head. The second is we have 3 defense systems that we overuse inside our heads. The third is we have 2 polarities for every single human in this room, straight, gay, man, woman, whatever your identification is. We have a polarity of the feminine and the masculine. And sadly, in our modern world, we've prioritized the masculine. So that leads us to a lot of unhappiness. And the fourth is one single thought that I call in programming a looping thought, a thought that is playing over and over in your head that leads you to a lot of unhappiness.